Hi everyone. So some of you guys might have read my post earlier. Thank you for those of you that did. It was long. But I'm just going to summarize it with a video because I know some people just don't like to read. So the Associated Press earlier today announced a projected winner of the presidential election. Um, and I want you guys to keep something in mind. Earlier this year, in July, the Supreme Court passed a law allowing states to overturn the votes of the Electoral College um, and enforce that they be recast and made a certain way. I also want you guys to be aware that the Electoral College is not going to actually convene until the second, I think the second Monday or the Monday of the second Wednesday. So it's going to be December 14th, 2020 is when they're actually going to convene to make that a final call. I also want to bring in to consideration that Dominion Voting, through their image cast evolution technology, they reported some pretty large discrepancies in at least one of their machines. Now, they had machines in 30 states, or yeah, I think they had a lot of machines. I don't have the exact number. I did. I just don't have it memorized with me right now. Anyway, that has brought down the confidence of the voters. And then I know that some of you guys are like, oh, Biden won already. Just shut up, leave it alone. Okay, well, while that might be the case, I want you to think about this because that was only one section of the ballot. And for those of you who went and you voted and you were prepared, or you know how voting goes, you know that on that ballot there were judges, sheriffs, that's your law enforcement, and that's kind of been a big deal this year. Judges, law enforcement, commissioners on preservation commissioners. You had representatives, amendments that are going to kind of control how much the minimum wage is and what tax breaks you get on your property, if you're a property owner, how long homestead property tax is, who shows up on your primary ballot, on the ballot when you go vote for the primaries. Will you be able to see all of the candidates or only what you're registered to vote for? How long and what is the process to actually pass an amendment? Will you get to vote on it? How many times will you have to do that? So there was a lot more than just the president on the ballot. So this big horse and pony show, I think it's a lot more than the part that has sex appeal. Who's the president? Who's the new guy? I'm gonna not use any slurs. That's gonna be in charge of the nation. I think that no matter what side you were on, if you were a Trump or a Biden fan, you believe that the other one is a criminal. You believe that the other one is a race. You believe the same things about the other one. And no matter what evidence you have against it, you can't hear it. You can't hear it, you can't see it. They could probably be in cahoots and guilty of the same things, but I want you guys to think about that, and I want you to understand that on Monday, um, the current president is going to he's going to take this to court. And even if you feel that you have the results from this election that you wanted, if you feel like you had the outcome that you're looking for, I really want you to take this into consideration, because in the event that you have this many people that are not confident about the democratic process and what took place, you're gonna want these hearings in the future to be transparent, and when they do find distortions and flaws in the system that we're using, and they will, because they've already been seen, you're gonna want that brought to light, and you're gonna want that acknowledged past the bias of your desired outcome. So I want you to think about this. If that happened to Biden, okay, if you're a Biden supporter, if Biden went and found out that overnight there was a machine who had counted all of these extra votes against him that were not there, that would be messed up. And you would be like, hey, there's a hole in the democratic process, and I want that looked into, and I want it rectified. So no matter who your desired outcome leans towards, you're gonna want to see the holes in that system, and then you're gonna want to have them rectified and sealed so that they do not happen again. And I hope that it's not that you never get to witness them while they're still happening. But earlier today, I had made a post, right? I said, I was kind of highlighting the facts and the history of democracy itself. So throughout history, democracy is the single form of government that has been the least likely to prevail, and the reason why that is because it's difficult and it's expensive to get so many people to collectively come together and cooperate and have discussions. And usually democracies happen after some form of enlightenment, right? You have to overthrow some tyrannical form of government or escape it, and then you make a system of government by the people for the people, where like that, so that the people have a voice, and so that they don't have to suffer enslavement. Like, that's a horrible thing. I think we all look back in history, and that's just not a good. You don't want to be living in servitude. It's not a good way to live. So I think what is the most common rate, democracies don't last more than 300 years, right? So we're coming up on like year 250 here. And the thing about America is that it's it's become its own central interest, right? Like its own central, it's a world power, right? So there are so many places outside of the US that have a special interest, especially since World War II, um, where if they wanted to have any, you know, if they wanted to change the global order in any way, then they had a lot of incentive to want to influence what's going on at DC and in DC, Washington DC here. Um, and it's not very hard to have that kind of influence. All you need is some money. You go ahead, you fund a commercial company, a big company, you give them lots of money, and you have them fund representatives and lobbyists and stuff like that, and get, just put things in motion. I mean, it's not that difficult. And it's not that hard to funnel money in through propositions. And that's kind of where we're starting to see things fall. I think I heard somebody earlier talking about this was like the most comparable moment to the tale of the Tower of Babel, where we built this amazing thing, like big tech, just all of this technology. We built it up so high. But it's things start to fall apart because everybody's speaking a different language, we speak a different language of morality, through these propositions where somebody is saying they want to get something done, right? And so they're fighting to get this thing done. They're excited about it. They want, they have this proposition. But then you have another group who that thing that you're trying to get done directly affects, and it actively harms what those other people value as being something sacred, right? And then so then you have this tribalism, this information warfare, reaffirming biases, mimetic warfare. Oh my gosh, technology and the mimetic memes. Mimetic is a big word, right? So memes, you put up memes, and those things travel like wildfire, right? Just to kind of solidify these like little seeds of ideas that give you. We have algorithms that can make those things pop up for you, So most people throughout history, they've not lived in democracies, and the ones who have, they understand that, or the ones that didn't live through it and then they got to, they have this understanding of what the alternative is, something that you can see is lost over time, right? So you have your democracy, it might have come from this tyrannical government, there's a revolution and an enlightenment, and now you have a democracy where the people, they strive to uphold it and they teach their kids, but generations pass, and that embodiment of what made the system important starts to fade away, and you lose the reference point, right? You read it about it in storybooks, history books, but you can't really apply it. So there's a generation who's unable to appreciate it, and they look at the dark parts of the history and start to question the whole thing. And then so you can see the decay in democracy because you have so many people that start to speak differently, a different language. They can't get along fundamentally. And then you also have the seeds of corruption, like as if election rigging, and things like that. So, I mean, and then you also have things, that distract people too. You have nobody wants to go to jury duty. Nobody wants to go sit in on the town hall, the city hall meetings, and a lot of parents don't want to join the PTA. They don't want to be involved in what it takes to make the structure of society really kind of function at the level that it probably should. I mean, a democracy is an obligation. It's not just a right that you have. It becomes an obligation, and that becomes work. And why would you do it when you are so comfortable? You have social engagements to attend. You have a party to go to. There's drink for you to drink and drug for you to get high on. Now with the legalization of marijuana, even before, I mean, like as if it wasn't prevalent, So you have these options, and so it becomes work to maintain the democracy, and that's where you can kind of see the disconnect, and it starts to break down, and so you notice that when the left and the right um, feel as though the nation is on the brink of an existential crisis or downfall, I mean, collapse, they're right, you know, probably it is, if the integrity of the democracy itself sits upon the notion that what they're trying to do is right, and what the other is trying to do has to be the opposite, then it isn't right. Nobody's right. You're not having this conversation, especially if you're grounded and trying to confirm the demonization of another group, and you guys can't have these honest conversations. You know what I'm saying? So I've even, since I've been recording this, I've had some messages come through on my phone where somebody says, may Jesus come and save your soul because Trump is out to get us, and then I've had the others say, Trump was I can't even get into it. People are messaging me, and there's and then I say, he doesn't even if whatever president doesn't win, we need to have confidence and faith in the democratic process, and we need to know that it is a secure system that we can depend on, that we utilize, because as you can see now with the way things are going, we've lost the ability to communicate with each other, and the system is decaying. And is it decaying just because we can't get along, and because the news is a raging dumpster fire who lies to us, and then we don't want to admit that they're lying? Okay, so we need to be able to talk to each other. We need to be able to see these things, and we need to be able to have the ability to make sense of things and have meaningful conversations with each other, honest ones. And we need to have the capacity to understand why each other thinks what they're thinking, without just settling with something that demonizes them. Yes, there are people that are not easy to reason with. We'll run across that. But we need to have the capacity to communicate on a collective level so that we can coordinate, and we don't need to double down on our own biases. We need to invest in educating ourselves. I mean, and if we accept that we're going to devolve into some form of autocracy or monarchy or dynasty or something, then I mean, maybe we should discuss how we're going to make it a better one than a war. And these aren't all my own original ideas. You know, I want to make sense of things, and so I'd solidify my ideas by looking into things, you know, not just what I originally think. I question what I think and what that means for everything else, you know.